Hey, what's up guys? Jake with Legacy 4x4 here again, and today we're going to be on part 5 of my do-it-yourself teardrop trailer. So today we're going to be doing some basic skin work. We're going to start the skin work, the floor, and some really basic wiring, running the wires for the trailer. So let's go and get started. Alright, so you can see behind me, I've got one of the panels mocked up on the side. I'm actually going to do the inside of the trailer first and then work my way to the outside of the trailer. But we've got one of the panels mocked up just to see for fitment and so that I can mark it out for where I need a cut in order to make the inside panel. I'm going to mark it from the outside because I can't get the full 4x8 sheet on the inside. But before I turn the camera on, this is what I got done today. So far, I've ran the basic wiring harness. Now, really simple wiring harness for this trailer, and we'll get into more details when I start wiring up the battery and stuff, but I need to run the wires before I put the walls on because I'm going to run all the wires through the wall. So as you can see behind me on the trailer here, I've got the wires going back from where the battery is going to be in the back of the trailer, and I drilled some holes through the 1x1 steel frame so that I can run the wires through them to make them nice and snug, running through the frame and not taking away anything from the sidewalls of the trailer where I'm going to be applying glue. So we've got all of that done. I've got 2 wires ran over for where the plugs are going to go. I've got 2 USB rechargeable plugs that can run off of 12 volts and can charge a phone, an iPad, a Bluetooth speaker. And then I've got the rest of the harness running up to the roof of the trailer. I'm not finished running the roof wires yet because I don't have to. I'm doing the sides first. The roof is going to be the last thing to go on. But the rest of the wires are up there because the rest of this stuff, the porch light, the interior lights, and the fan are all up on the roof. So everything else is going to be ran through the roof like that. I also cut the 2 floor panels down. So because the trailer is 5 feet wide, I had to use 2 pieces of wood in order to make the full width that are just shy of 8 feet long for the floor. So those have been, I cut those down and then I applied some waterproof. So honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never built a teardrop trailer before, but I bought some deck sealant. So I'm gonna apply some of this on the ground facing edge of the plywood to hopefully help seal it and keep it a little bit waterproof. There's gonna be caulk and some other stuff down there too, and then some paint, but I wanted to start with the deck sealant first. So we've got the deck sealant down and it is outside drying right now, and then we can come through and put the floor in. I want to put the floor in first and then do the interior walls and then do the floor foam and then the floor itself to kind of like make a little sandwich type thing. You'll understand more when I get going. So that's going to be the primary thing today, is to get the 4 interior walls done and get the floor finished up today. And then we'll go through and do foam on the outside, finish running wires, etc., etc. But that's what we got to do today. So we're going to keep moving, I guess. Those floor panels should be just about dry at this point, so I'm going to bring those inside and put them down, and I'll turn the camera back on in a little bit and show you guys a progress shot. Alright, so let's talk about material selection before we get too far into this. So I kind of forgot to talk about it when I was opening the video, but let's go and talk about it now. So what we're using for our material is a 5mm sanded plywood that you can buy at any home improvement store across the country. Now, I wasn't able to buy local to me a 5 foot by 10 foot sheet, which would have been the ideal way to do this. Ideally, I would have had a 5x10 sheet for the 2 sides and for the roof, so that I had one constant seam the whole way through without any breaks in it. I couldn't buy that local to me, and I didn't want to wait for it to ship and all that other kind of stuff, so I'm using 4x8 sheets. Now, the trailer is exactly 48 inches tall. I mean, it is exactly, from where the board mounts to the very top of the trailer. So that's not a problem, it's the length of it. Now, the trailer's frame is exactly 8 feet long, but the whole trailer is actually like 102 or 104 inches, something like that. And the reason for that is because to accommodate for a queen size mattress, and then, which is 80 inches, and then I got to include 18 inches for the cooler, because I'm sizing it off of a cooler I already have, so I got to include 18 inches for the cooler, plus insulation 1x1, etc. That's how you get to that 102, 104, whatever inches long that this thing is. So you would need a 10-foot sheet if you wanted to do a solid on one side. Now, to get around that, It's going to be a little bit more waterproofing on my part. It's going to be some waterproof wood filler, a lot of sanding, and a little bit more work on those aspects, but that's okay. I'm just working with what I got. I'm trying to show that you can build this with what you can buy at the hardware store. So we're using a 5mm sanded plywood. It was like $25 a sheet. I did order 20 sheets of it, I think, because there's going to be a lot of scrap, and I just recognize that, because trying to use as few pieces as possible to make some of these different segments is inevitably going to end up with some scrap being left over. I could have pieced it all together, you know, could have pieced like edges, especially on the inside. Like I could have pieced together the inside with scrap from some of those, but I want the inside to look as nice as the outside does, so I opted to just buy more of the foam, or more of that plywood. So it is what it is. It was 20 sheets of it. I actually had it delivered because I don't have a pickup truck anymore, so I just had it delivered to me, which was easy enough. So that is the inner and outer walls. I'm doing both the walls out of the same stuff. I might decorate the inside with like some shiplap, some wallpaper, I don't know yet. I'm gonna do something on the inside when I get to that, but that'll be in a future video, much longer down the road. For now, we're just getting the bulk of the structure down. Now, the reason why I can do 5mm plywood instead of doing something like 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch is because I have a steel frame. So if you were to make this only out of wood and you're using some kind of small, you know, 1x2s or 1x3s or something as your studs, then you would have to use probably a thicker plywood on the outside. And the reason for that is just because you don't have the structure. So like this 5mm plywood is absolutely not structural. It has no strength to it whatsoever. It's actually really kind of annoying to work with. I can't get it even on my little table saw because I don't have a huge table saw table. So it's kind of annoying to work with, but because I have the 1x1 frame, I can go really thin on my wood. And this is going to provide a couple of different things. First off, it's cheaper for starters. It's going to keep the weight down. So 1x1 is not very heavy. It's only £1 pound per foot, which is objectively not that heavy compared to like 1x3s, 1x4s, 2x4s, etc. It's all about the same, but I can go much thinner on my outer walls in order to compensate for a little bit of that extra weight. In addition to that, the sanded plywood has a nice finish. I can minimize the amount of like post-processing I've got to do. I'm not gonna have to fill in any USB boards. I'm not gonna have to do any like crazy work to get the outside of this trailer and the inside to look really smooth when it's all done. And then third, I have no idea if this is true or not, but a part of me thinks that sanded plywood and being this thin will be less likely to delaminate or weather due to the fact that it's thin. There's less surface area on the edges for water to seep into, which is going to make sealing easier, and it's going to lower the risk of delamination or of the plywood falling apart. I have no idea if that's true or not, but we'll see, I guess, after a long-term review of this trailer. Now, I'll be honest, if I were to do the outer skins again, so I bought all the stuff to waterproof it, I bought all the rhino liner I'm going to rhino line this trailer with, et cetera, and all the wood, and it came out to like $250, $300, somewhere in that range. Total cost for those materials. This doesn't include the inside, this is just the outside pieces. If I were to do it again, and if I were to make one of these for somebody else, I would probably recommend going to aluminum side paneling. So it's a lot more expensive though. If you buy it online, you're looking at like $1,000, $1,200 just in aluminum paneling and for a 5x10 sheet of this stuff. My steel supplier local to me actually carries it. It's a 0.04 thickness aluminum. It's called aluminum smooth. It's not structural, but again, you kind of get the option that because I have a steel frame, you can just run something like that. Now, that aluminum was $150 a sheet for a 4x10 or a 5x10 sheet of it. So that would have worked really nicely. It would have provided some automatic waterproofing on the outside, would have prevented any like potential delamination issues I might have in the future. It was $150 a sheet. I would have needed 3 sheets of it. So plus tax, it would have been about $500. So a roughly half or twice the cost in order to go to aluminum. But in hindsight, I think that probably would have been a nice addition to this. That aluminum is so thin that you can cut it with a router the same way I'm going to router out the outsides of this trailer. It does gum up the router bits. You might go through 1 or 2 of those, but they're relatively cheap. So I would keep that in mind if you're budgeting for this and you wanted to build something like this yourself, that maybe it's worth it to spend a little extra on that. I don't know. I think this is going to be fine. Obviously, that's why I'm still going with it. But, you know, if I were to do it again, I would probably do that. All right, so I put the floor in, and now we're going to go start working on the sides. So pretty simple process. We're going to be doing plywood, insulation, more plywood. But it's time to move on to the sides. I'll shoot a little bit of footage of this. I'm not doing a whole bunch of recording of me working because this is actually kind of time consuming, but that's okay. You guys will see what the product looks like. But let's go ahead and move on into the next bit, and let's get into doing the inner and outer sidewalls. So let's talk insulation. So because I'm using 1x1s and I want to maximize the space inside the trailer, I elected not to go to 2x2 foam insulation, which is very common. And also because, again, much like with the side panels, I don't need the rigidity or the structure that foam provides. Everything that's got gaps, seals, etc. is all made out of steel on this. So I don't need super thick insulation. So I got some of this 1-inch rigid insulation foam board, again like 20 something dollars for a sheet of it, 4x8 sheet of it, that I had delivered with the plywood. Now this insulation has an R value of 5, which is pretty good. There is a lower one, an R value of 3.6 I believe, that's a little bit cheaper, but I went with R5. That combined with the plywood, beer math on this, should give me around an R value of like 7 or 8, which is not super high, but it should be enough. So again, like, this is going to be like a fair weather camper. I'm not trying to go to any like super remote or super cold places where you'd really be worried about that insulation. So I think our value of 7 or 8 is going to be about good enough. I am going to have a fan that's going up on the top of the trailer that'll help to circulate the air inside the trailer and to prevent any condensation. But so we're using this foam. This stuff's pretty easy to cut. You can cut it with a saw if you want, but I'm just using a razor blade. You can see on this front panel that some of my cuts aren't perfect. I'll probably shove some scrap pieces of foam in here before I put the front panel on, but you know, it's close enough. The razor blade works really easily. You can kind of like fine tune it for a nice press fit. Like some of the panels on this side are nice and tight on the inside because I was just able to get a little bit closer on those than I did on this front piece. This front piece was kind of annoying to do because I actually had to cut it in half and sandwich like 4 pieces together because I didn't have enough distance here to get the whole panel inside of here resting into place. I probably should have put the foam panel, like nestled it into place before putting this inner wall in, but I didn't, so oh well. But that's what we got for foam. And then otherwise I'm using some sheet metal screws and some glue. So for the adhesive, I'm using this Loctite PL3 Premium. This stuff is kind of expensive, like $8 a can, and so far I have used 4 out of the 6 cans I bought for it, so I'm gonna have to go get more of that. But what this is allowing me to do, so I chose that Loctite because it's a heavy duty adhesive, construction type adhesive, but it was the only one I found at the hardware store that said on the side of it that it was rated to do porous and non-porous materials. Namely, it can do wood to metal adhesion. So because I have all these metal pieces where most of the panels are glued to, I wanted something that could actually make sure that it adhered all that. There's other options. There were some Gorilla Glue and JB Welds, but for the volume, that was the only one that I could find. So that's what I've been using. I just like working with glue. It gets all your damn hands. It's very annoying, but that's the best way to do this. I am running through with some small number 8 sheet metal screws as well to kind of pinch things into place. So for the most part, I've tried clamping on all the exterior places that I could, but on some places like down low where I wasn't able to get a clamp, I did have to use some sheet metal screws. Once I removed all the clamps, I did go through and do just a couple of sheet metal screws around the whole thing. That way I got some extra clamping force, a little bit of mechanical adherence to this, as well as with the glue from the Loctite. So granted, now this does prevent or propose a small problem. It does potentially open up for where water could seep into these, and I'm going to solve that problem by using some waterproof wood filler and then rhino lining this entire exterior. So we kind of have a plan. But anyways, I'm going to finish up for the day, and I'll take you guys around the trailer and show you guys what we got. All right, so we're all done for the day. This was one full day's worth of work, one full Saturday. Started at like 10 a.m., worked until about 6 p.m. So about an 8-hour work day. I didn't take any breaks throughout that day either. So this is how far I was able to get in one day. I'll take you guys off the tripod now and I'll show you guys where we're at. Starting up front here, ignore my really messy garage. I really wish I had a little bit more work area. I should probably clean that off and then push that outside so I have a bigger cutting surface, but whatever. We got the front done. So we've got the foam on the front and we've got the inner panel on the front there. You can see this is where some of the glue is. I'm going to come through before I put the roof on and I'm going to sand all of this down so that I have good adhesion for the next layer of glue. But we've got the front panel in place. This is where I was talking about I had to cut it into multiple pieces to get it to fit down there, but that's what that looks like. Now coming off to the side, I totally forgot to turn the camera on when I was putting on the side panel, but we got the side panel fully installed, and behind it you can see where the front is. This is where all the insulation is, and we've got the inner wall done too. So this is what the insulation looks like, and then that's what the outer panel looks like, all tied up. Now I was able to route out the door as well, the outside door opening. I need to finish doing the inside door opening, but I will do that tomorrow. You can see it follows the edge of the trailer really nicely, going all the way to the back. Now to get this edge, because I don't have a CNC, which would have made this really easy, I just took a flush cut router bit and I ran it along the metal to flush this up nice and tight. Now, I'll come through when it's all done, when I get the roof on and stuff, and I'll do a nice chamfer and stuff to add a little depth to this, but that's what that looks like. The only issues I ran into while doing this was the router couldn't get close because of these bars here, so I did have to come through with the jigsaw to get this last like inch or two, and I'm going to sand this down before I put the roof on. Eventually. Now, moving on the inside, I've got stuff sitting on the inside because I've got the floors glued down and I needed some weight on it. So I just threw some things into here to make some of that weight. On the inside, you can see we've got the inner passenger compartment panel installed, and we've got that front kicker panel installed as well, up where the headboard's going to go. I was initially thinking about making the upper compartment accessible from the inside, but I changed my mind. I think that you won't have much of a reason to access that from the inside, so I left it as a closed cell. I haven't gone back here yet. I'm kind of just focusing on the passenger compartment right now, and then I'll come back here and do this hopefully next weekend or tomorrow if I get any time to work on this. Same thing with the flush cut router. I rough cut this pretty close just to get this thing to fit inside here, and then I came through with the flush cut router from the inside and ran it along the edge. But there's some pieces of it you can see I've rough cut too low, so it's not perfect, but we'll fix all that kind of in post-production as we're in the final stages of finishing this trailer and doing all the tidying up. Now on this side, we also ran our wires. So this is my loose wiring harness that is going to be plugged into my distribution block back here. That's where my battery compartment's going to go. And I ran the wires in wire loom through these little holes, half-inch holes I drilled through the 1x1. This one's hanging down so I could get in, so I could clean the door. And we've got it going up here and over for where the bulk of the wiring is going to go. This one little harness here is going to split off and it's going to go to the front here, and that's where my plugs are going to be for charging phones and stuff. But that's what that looks like. So when I come back out here, the next time I get a chance to work, it's going to be doing this sidewall the same way I did that one. So that's going to be the next step. All right, so this is what we were able to get done in one 8-hour day. Again, I told you guys I was going to chunk this video up into what I think is manageable portions. So I would just be prepared whenever you get ready to start working on skinning this, that you're probably going to need 4 or 5 days to do this 100%. I'm anticipating it's going to take me 2 full days to get all the sides done, and then another full day to get the roof done, if not a little longer on the roof. The roof's going to be pretty challenging, I think. But we got all that done today. Now I do need to go out to the store. I need to go pick up some more sheet metal screws. I actually don't have any that work, so I need to go buy more of them. Buy some more sheet metal screws and some more of the Loctite so that we can keep working on this project. So I'm really happy though with how it's looking so far. As you guys saw, we've got the whole side, the side with the door, the passenger side of the trailer all finished up. It's all clamped down or weighted down for the floor. So it should be able to dry overnight the last little bit that it needs to dry. That stuff does take a while to dry. And if you pull the clamps off too early, you will have some pull away of the glue, which then you'll have to fill back in later and reclamp and let sit all over again. So make sure you take your time when you're doing the glue and with the clamps. And I would definitely say, I know it's like the running joke with woodworkers that you can never have enough clamps. I've always felt like I had enough clamps for all the steel work I did, but by God, did I use every single one of them and then some on this. I was like doing screws to clamp things in, and I was moving clamps around to get the pressure that I needed for that glue to set. So definitely going to need more clamps than you think you need. I'm probably going to buy a couple more of those when I'm at the store tomorrow too. So moving on, our next video is going to be finishing the other side wall. I'm going to come through and do the other side wall, try to get these front walls done, and try to do the back wall in another full day's worth of work. So it's going to be a little time consuming, but I think I've got the process down. I kind of figured it out today. So I've got a better feeling of how this is going to work. I've never actually done this kind of stuff before, so I'm just kind of figuring it out as I go. But the next one, it's going to be, first is going to be to the other side wall, come up and do the front walls, and then do the back as well. So that's going to be, the next video is going to be crushing all of those pieces. The third video, probably the third part of skinning this trailer, is going to be the roof. And then after that, we've got like some little accoutrements, running wires, some drawers, and some things like that. And then eventually we got to make a hatch, make some doors. We got a lot of stuff left to do. So I hope you guys like this. Sorry if I skipped around a little bit. I didn't show you guys as much of the work, but hopefully you can make enough sense of the process that this makes sense to follow along if you wanted to follow along. It's pretty straightforward. Measure, cut, glue, clamp, screw, repeat, 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 on and on and on again until you're done. So I hope this was helpful to you guys. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next video where we knock out the other side of this trailer's skins. See ya.